Thingkho Le Malcha, by KSO Media and Documentation Cell, issue number 63, Monday, 13 November, 2023. Headlines: Moortown civil society organizations condemn inhuman actions of Manipur state extremists in Moor, surrounding villages. Arrested 7 civilians in Moor tortured indiscriminately by police commandos, reports. Mizoram, high alert around border after gunfight between Myanmar Army, rebel outfits. Spotlight on 316 transfer-seeking college students as Manipur crisis continues. Center extends ban on 9 Meitei extremist groups in Manipur for 5 years. Politics over internet restoration demand. Are RAMBAI tangle the de facto state police force? Tales from a relief camp. Thingkho Le Malcha, Relief Center update. Churachandpur Higher Secondary School Relief Center. Hilltown, Lamka. Managed by Young Mizo Association, YMA, Chinkan Branch. Total inmates registered, 157. Male, 61. Female, 96. Kuki victims update AS on November 10, 2023. Deaths, 150. Villages burnt, 200 plus. Houses burnt, 7,000 plus. Churches and synagogues burnt, 360. Displaced persons, 41,425. Moortown civil society organizations condemn inhuman actions of Manipur state extremists in Moor, surrounding villages. Moor Hilltown including the Kuki Inpi Tengnupal, Kuki Students Organization, Hill Tribal Council, Moor Youth Club and Kuki Chiefs Association on Monday vehemently condemned the vandalizing of Moor Subdivisional Hospital and looting of the hospital equipments by one Hayabam Dinesh Meitei and a group of police commandos. In a statement, the Kuki CSOs stated that a former male nurse, Hayabam Dinesh Meitei, accompanied by Manipur police commandos barged into Moor Subdistrict Hospital at around 11 a.m. on November 10, 2023 and looted the properties. They destroyed all important properties including almirah and other materials in the COVID room. Apart from vandalizing the properties, they also looted the furniture, computers, important documents and all valuable equipments. The police commandos had vandalized the staff quarters, looted all valuable items including computer sets, laptops, metal almirahs, furniture, utensils, blankets, etc. Some of the looted items included medicines, materials from delivery room, MOT dressing materials, stethoscope, sphygmomanometer, medical scale/weighing machine, dressing drum 2, pharmacy computer -1 set, red blanket 30, bed sheet 30, pillow covers, mosquito nets, Ardado water purifier 1, OPD computer 1 set and air cooler. With the pressing needs of healthcare facilities in this border town, the civil society organizations had been putting all efforts to reopen the Moor Subdistrict Hospital which remained closed since the outbreak of the state-sponsored ethnic conflict. The dastardly and cowardice act of the so-called Manipur police commandos in connivance with Hayabam Dinesh Meitei is another attempt to put the lives of many people in danger, said the Kuki CSOs. The joint CSOs asked, who gave the authority to Mr. Hayabam Dinesh Meitei and the police commandos to loot properties from the hospital? It is also learned that some Meitei civilians and VDF personnel were masquerading as police commandos and were staying inside the police CDO complex near Moor Police Station. The CSOs are jointly investigating and their details will be exposed quickly, the joint statement stated. The CSOs alleged that the Manipur government using excessive force on the peace-loving Kukizo community in Moortown, ransacking and looting the lone hospital in Tengnupal district and blocking of essential commodities including medicines at Kukching Lamkai areas are all a part of the ethnic cleansing pogrom against the Kukizo community. Such unlawful activities of the Meiteis clearly show their desperate desire to prevent the people of Moortown and its surrounding areas from healthcare access, said the statement, adding that following the death of SDPOCH Anand Kumar in a gunfight between armed miscreants and Meitei cops, the Manipur police commandos had been harassing innocent civilians. The Kuki civil bodies also mentioned that on November 1, the commandos in the name of combing and search operation brutally thrashed villagers of Guvajang and nearby villagers, after which 3 females including a minor girl were admitted to the Moor Primary Health Center. The women lodged a complaint to the Superintendent of Police, Tengnupal District. They beat us using their bare hands and then kicked us. One of them hit my head with his radio set. They vandalized our household belongings viz. TV, washing machines, refrigerators, almirahs, doors and windows, took away our cash and mobile phones, one of the victims lamented. Moreover, they took away the village chief's pada/land ownership documents and several vehicles. The same police commandos continued the same brutality to the villagers of D. Maunafai and New Likat on 3 November, Mun Nam Vang, Zion Vang, Yangapokbi and P. Lijang village on 4 November. The 7 persons apprehended by the commandos, mainly due to suspicion, were framed with baseless charges, reportedly beaten black and blue multiple times by the so-called state interrogators, and the fate of those 7 people is still unknown. Thus, Manipur state has become the most brutal, communal and apartheid regime in the world. The the CSOs accused. On Sunday, November 5, 2023, the extremist police commandos intruded New Moor locality and rounded up the locals who were returning from church service. Then commando extremists loaded their guns and pointed to the women when the womenfolk tried to intervene. They fired several live rounds towards two boys who were simply riding a bike. The operation, if any, is supposed to be conducted jointly by the state and central forces. Ironically, all these lawlessness happened during curfew relaxation hours. On learning about the incident, the Assam Rifles and Central Security Forces rushed to the spot. The extremist state commandos fled the scene when the central forces arrived. Later, the womenfolk submitted a strong complaint to the SP of Thingkho district, who also came to the spot. Again on November 6, 2023, the police commandos conducted a combing operation at Wanamjang, Tiangnam and Langnam villages. After they left the area, two powerful bombs exploded. Villagers suspected that the bombs might have been planted by the extremist commandos so as to kill and traumatize the villagers. On November 8, the extremist Meitei commandos conducted operation in Yangapokpi, St. Malanphai and Hygiene Cafe areas where they repeated the same act. The Kuki civil society bodies said that such uncivilized behavior from the state machinery was totally unexpected and uncalled for and have no place in this modern world. The joint CSOs demanded the Moor Police Department to do the needful for booking Mr. Hayabam Dinesh Mite and the erring commandos at the earliest. The Moor Police should initiate proper action on the furs lodged earlier. The state must act responsibly like a state. Otherwise the door is opened, so they can leave the Kukizo people alone, the statement added. Arrested 7 civilians in Moor tortured indiscriminately by police commandos, reports. The 7 innocent civilians who were arrested on a mere suspicion were beaten black and blue multiple times by the Meitei police commandos at the police commando station in Moor, a reliable source said. The source also stated that constant cries of the arrested individuals could be heard from within the Meitei police commando station at Moor, where the arrested individuals were begging to be rescued from the station while also supposedly expressing the pain and agony they have gone through. Inside the station, condemning police brutality, the Kuki Women Organization for Human Rights, KOR, said the organization was deeply disturbed by the relentless torture of 7 arrested civilians from Moor by the Meitei police commandos. Such inhuman torture is unwarranted and is a gross violation of human rights. It depicts the totalitarian disposition of the Meitei-led state government, which is anti-Kukizo, anti-constitutional and anti-human, it said. Moreover, while the presence of Meitei police commandos in Moor is itself a giant controversy owing to the strong opposition by the locals, the grounds of arrest of those individuals was at most suspicious and shocking, it said, alleging that the operation, detention, arrest, and subsequent high-handedness against the individuals were implicitly the open persecution against the Kukizo community. The Kuki Women Organization for Human Rights, KOR, strongly condemned the physical, mental, and emotional assault against the arrested individuals belonging to the Kukizo community by the Meitei police commandos stationed at Moor. It is evident that the conflict in Manipur is a targeted oppression of the minority Kukizo people by the majority Meiteis, KOR alleged. Therefore, it is urgent for the center government to take appropriate and immediate measures against the gross violation of human rights, which could only stir the conflict to a greater gravity and intensity. It said. KOR made a sincere appeal to all human rights organizations to stand in solidarity with the victims and to stand against the undue use of force and anti-constitutional means by the Meitei police commandos and the extreme human rights violations against the Kukizo community. Mizoram, high alert around border after gunfight between Myanmar Army, rebel outfits. High alert was sounded by authorities in Mizoram's Champhai district after heavy gunfight took place between Myanmar Army and rebel outfits across the border since Sunday evening, which has resulted in several hundred Myanmar nationals residing close to the border entering the Indian side seeking refuge. According to officials, gunfight started between Myanmar Army and cadres of Chinland Defense Force, CDF, an outfit formed in 2021 against the military junta in the neighboring country on Sunday. Fighting started on Sunday evening. It continued through the night and ended early on Monday morning. There are also reports of bombing close to the international border, but there's no damage on the Indian side, said James Laurenchana, Deputy Commissioner of Champhai. He added that efforts are underway to confirm the exact situation on the ground and a team of magistrates have been sent to Zokothar, a border town in Champhai. More details are expected later in the day, the official said. There could be collateral damage on our side due to the events across the border. We are ready to face that, and officials have been instructed about it, Laurenchana said. Following the violence, over 1,000 Myanmar nationals, all of them residents of towns and villages close to the border, have reportedly crossed to the Indian side. At least 2 people who sustained injuries have been sent to Champhai for treatment. We can't say exactly how many Myanmar nationals have entered India since Sunday. This has been a regular feature for over 2 years now. Every time there's fresh violence in Myanmar, citizens of that country enter India for safety. Most of them return when the situation becomes normal, he said. Spotlight on 316 transfer-seeking college students as Manipur crisis continues. Altogether 252 students from the Imphal Valley have sought transfer to colleges in the hill districts because of the unrest in Manipur, while 64 others have sought transfer from the hill districts to valley colleges. The 6-month-old ethnic strife has caused the tribal Kuki people to shun the Métis majority valley, and the Métis to stay away from the tribal-dominated hill districts, resulting in a virtually complete demarcation of the Kuki and Métis populations. The state's BJP-led government gave the figure of 316 transfer-seeking college students in a 2-page media statement on Saturday night that said such transfers were being facilitated. It mentioned the various steps undertaken to mitigate the hardships faced by displaced students because of the violent conflict that started in the first week of May. The statement, issued by the Higher and Technical Education Department, said Manipur University had arranged online facilities for students of colleges affiliated to the varsity who are unable to attend physical classes because of the conflict. Steps are being taken to arrange physical classes for undergraduate and postgraduate students in Churachandpur and other hill districts. It added, the statement said affected students would be allowed to secure provisional admission without having to produce documents that may have been lost or damaged in the conflict. Under Chief Minister's College Students Rehabilitation Scheme, 2023, transfer of one student from one college to another college of his or choice is allowed. It said, so far, 252 students have applied for transfer from Valley colleges to Hill colleges and 64 students have applied for transfer from Hill colleges to Valley colleges. They have been allowed to admit themselves to colleges of their choice. Updation of their new college name in university records will be done by Manipur University shortly. Manipur University will regenerate burnt, damaged or lost documents on request. The statement said, the Kuki people have been demanding a separate administration citing security reasons. Deepening distrust between the communities and sporadic violence has kept the state on edge. There is little sign of any government or civil society organization-initiated talks between the two communities to end the conflict. The government statement was released hours after Kuki students held a massive march against education negligence in Churachandpur to convey the suffering caused to them by the continuing unrest and seek alternative arrangements to continue their education without worry. Various students' organizations belonging to Kuki community in Lamka district participated in the march against educational negligence on Saturday, and had also submitted a 2-page memorandum to Union Home Minister Amit Shah through the Deputy Commissioner. The government statement, signed by Nivedita Laran Lakpam, Additional Secretary, Higher and Technical Education, highlighted the benefits extended to the affected students covering schools, central government institutions, colleges affiliated to Manipur University, medical institutes and the B. Danamanjuri University. In order to cater to request of individual students, a help desk has been created in the office of respective DCs. The statement said the government had assigned a nodal officer for each relief camp since June to look after the needs of displaced schoolchildren. It said that more than 98% of the pupils had been readmitted to nearby schools and provided with textbooks, notebooks, stationery and sports kits. Among others, the government has empowered the deputy commissioners to issue provisional migration certificates, while the Board of Secondary Education, Manipur, has allowed online applications and the issuance of migration certificates. The CBSE has allowed its affiliated schools in Manipur to accept the provisional migration certificates issued by the deputy commissioners. Alternative mode of teaching learning is being provided through radio class, through local cable networks, the statement said. Center extends ban on 9 Métis extremist groups in Manipur for 5 years. The government on Monday banned 9 Métis extremist groups and their associate organizations, which mostly operate in Manipur, for their anti-national activities and launching fatal attacks on security forces. According to a notification issued by the Ministry of Home Affairs, the groups which were declared banned for 5 years were People's Liberation Army, generally known as PLA, and its political wing, the Revolutionary People's Front, RPF, the United National Liberation Front, UNLF, and its armed wing Manipur People's Army, MPA. The People's Revolutionary Party of Kangli-pak, PRI-pak, and its armed wing Red Army, the Kangli-pak Communist Party, KCP, and its armed wing, also called the Red Army, the Kongleyel Kamba-lup, KYKL, the Coordination Committee, CORCOM, and the Alliance for Socialist Unity Kangli-pak, ASUK. The PLA, UNLF, PRI-pak, KCP, KYKL were declared banned by the MHA under the Unlawful Activities, Prevention, Act, 1967, 37 of 1967, years ago, and the latest action extends the ban by 5 years. The declaration as outlawed of the other organizations is fresh. In its notification, the MHA said the central government is of the opinion that if there is no immediate curb and control of the Métis extremist organizations, they will take the opportunity to mobilize their cadres for escalating their secessionist, subversive, terrorist and violent activities. They will propagate anti-national activities in collusion with forces inimical to sovereignty and integrity of India, indulge in killings of civilians and targeting of the police and security force personnel, procure and induct illegal arms and ammunition from across the international border, and extort and collect huge funds from public for their unlawful activities, it said. The central government, having regard to the circumstances, is further of opinion that it is necessary to declare the Meitei extremist organizations as unlawful associations and accordingly, in exercise of the powers conferred by the proviso to subsection 3 of Section 3 of the said Act, the central government hereby directs that this notification shall, subject to any order that may be made under Section 4 of the said Act, have effect from the 13th day of November, 2023, for a period of 5 years, it said. TLM views, the center has declared those Meitei extremist organizations as unlawful associations under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, UAPA, to curb their secessionist, subversive, terrorist and violent activities. The move has been taken as utmost importance as the terrorist organizations are indulging in attacks on and killing of security forces, police and civilians in Manipur, as well as activities prejudicial to the sovereignty and integrity of India, with so many substantial evidences of the banned group's involvement in the current violence. The state and center also need to take action against them. What has hindered the long arm of law to stretch its hand against them? Many of the surrendered and infiltrated militants have even masqueraded as police commando personnel or special forces to launch attack on the Kukis amidst the imposed ban on those Meitei extremist groups by the center, an accusation against Meitei officer in Indian Army assisting and aiding the Meitei militants in Chandel district evoked suspicion about the seriousness of the government's action in the days to come. Politics over internet restoration demand. 6 student bodies based in Imphal Valley have now demanded internet restoration in the whole jurisdiction of Manipur with immediate effect. The 6 student bodies included All Manipur Students Union, AMSU, Manipuri Students Federation, MSF, Democratic Students Association of Manipur, DSAM, Kangleipak Students Association, KSA, Students Union of Kangleipak, SUK, and Apunba Area Paki Mahirul Sampanglup, AIMS. In a press note issued today, the 6 student bodies said the internet ban only increases the burden on student community and all other small-scale entrepreneurs who run business on internet. The internet ban does not serve its intended purpose, the student bodies said. The mobile internet ban has been in place to prevent the spread of disinformation and false rumors through various social media platforms such as WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and others, the Manipur government said. The All Naga Students Association, Manipur, ANSAM, on September 7 demanded internet restoration in all the Naga-inhabited districts, which the Nagas claimed themselves as maintaining neutrality. At this crucial juncture, accordingly, after repeated ultimatum and eco-blockade on the national highway, the state government agreed to the demand of the Nagas by lifting internet ban in the Naga-dominated district's headquarters. On November 9, officials in the state government said that the process has been initiated to withdraw the internet ban on a trial basis in the district headquarters of Ukral, Senapati, Chandel and Tamenglong, all are Naga tribal inhabited areas. Now, will the state government succumb to the demands of 6 valley student bodies? The right to internet access, also known as the right to broadband or freedom to connect, is now viewed by the world as a fundamental right which all the people must be able to access. In order to exercise and enjoy the rights to freedom of expression and opinion and other fundamental rights, the state has a responsibility to ensure that internet access is widely available and it should not restrict an individual's access to internet faculty. Are RAMBAI Thingkho the de facto state police force? In a recently viral video, Kurangamba Kuman, the commander of a RAMBAI Thingkho radicalized group, can be seen traveling in police vehicles with his convoy possessing sophisticated weapons. As usual, no action has been taken against them either by the state or the central agencies. It takes no Solomon to guess what the state of Manipur has become. It could only mean that either Manipur is becoming a sovereign country or a RAMBAI Thingkho has become the de facto state police force. 4. No sovereign state authority will surrender its power to a terrorist organization unless it colludes with them. The state judiciary might wash its hands off like Pilate did, but it cannot wash away its crime of being an enabler in emboldening these terrorists. The recent judgment and order in granting bail in an UAPA case against 5 armed miscreants, who not only wore police uniforms but were arrested in possession of guns, was one among the many evidences if the judiciary might ask for their involvement. The mute, deaf and blind attitude by the central and state agencies on the crimes committed against the Kuki community despite the glaring evidences is yet another reason why these Meitei terrorists committed such heinous crimes with no fear and unbothered of the consequences they might face later. The blindfold of goddess justice in our courts seems to be interpreted by them in their own way. Carlo Apna Margi, Kanun Anda Hai, do as you wish, the law is blind. The state machinery negligence in its responsibility and failure in doing its assigned task makes the Kukizo community the victims of such heinous and inhumane crimes they never deserved nor asked for. First, they took away our right to live with dignity by defaming us as illegal immigrants and narco-terrorists. And now, these ethnic cleansers and genocide culprits are given the de facto power to run the state when victims of these terrorists lives in a poverty-stricken life. Thus, the question in the hearts and minds of all the victim is, who will give us justice? Even if given, will the justice delivered to us be the justice we truly deserve? Tales from a relief camp. For many, the war hasn't hit home yet, literally. Although the war has affected us all in one way or the other and all of us have risen to the occasion, but when the job for the day is done, we go back to our homes, to the aroma of our kitchen, the gathering of loved ones and the warmth of our beds. But for so many others like Pao, name changed, the ongoing war has taken his home, his livelihood and a part of life out of him. At 73, there isn't much left in life he hasn't seen. He has been through 2 wars in his lifetime. He thought he had seen it all and the only thing left for him was to live out the remainder of what was left of his life, watching his grandchildren grow into fine youths, hopefully die of old age, surrounded by his family and be buried in a familiar place, a grave that his next generations can visit every now and then. But all that has now been stolen from him. A lifetime of hard work and livelihood built on honest, back-breaking labor all gone in an instant. For now, though still living, he has been robbed of a peaceful death already. As I met him today as part of a documentation team at a relief camp where he has been staying for 6 months now with his family, Mr. Pao looks ready to give up on the future. As he sat on a low plastic stool in the courtyard of the church which had been sheltering some members of his village who had fled the violence, bathing in the warmth of the early winter morning sunshine, I commented that he looked exhausted for someone who had just woken up barely a few hours ago. If only sleep would come so easy and last for so long, he said ruefully. Our lights are turned off at 9 p.m. yet we rarely sleep at that time. Sleep does not come easy. Every other night sleep eludes me. The darkness brings up too many memories. It is easier to sleep during the day. But then that keeps us up at night. I'm lucky if I get a few hours of sleep in a night, he says. He came here with his family which comprises of himself, his wife, aged 65, his eldest son and his family, a wife and 2 of their children, a boy and a girl, both teenagers. His other children have married and settled in other parts of the state, thankfully safe from the violence but each struggling to make ends meet. The church that has given shelter to him and some families from his village along with others from other villages is a local church, about 250 adult members only in a village comprising of 80-odd houses. The church itself is a basic, if charming 1-story brick building but the makeshift relief camp is an under-construction tin-roofed hall meant to be a Sunday school center. It was unfinished when they were moved in, only the roof and wooden frames holding the structure in place. Now split bamboo has been used to wall up the structure but as the winter winds get harsher, the slits in the split bamboo wall gets exposed. The cool earthen floor that had been their ally during the summer months now revealing the thinness of the tarpaulin and cane mats used to cover the bare floor, their sleeping bodies almost in direct contact with the cold ground they sleep on. In the first week of May, when all localities in Impul inhabited by the Kuki tribals came under attack by Meitei mobs, the news traveled far and wide. His eldest son informed him of the events and as theirs was located in the peripheral areas where the Impul Valley met the surrounding hills, they realized their vulnerability. The men of the village formed a sort of a defense group with the few licensed guns they had in the village but ammunition was limited. And when the Meiteis finally came in the hundreds with state police commandos in their bulletproof vehicles and state-supplied weapons of war, the village stood little to no chance. While the men put up a brave but short-lived defense, the womenfolk had gathered whatever they could and fled to the nearby hills with the aged and young ones. And as their ammunition ran out, their single-barrel hunting rifles no match for the automatic gunfire that rained down on them, the men followed soon after. And as darkness fell, from behind the jungle foliage that hid them they could only watch helplessly as their beloved homes went up in flames, their belongings fueling the fires that lit up the night sky, their lives upended and their future uncertain. The only consolation was that fortunately no lives were lost. They would soon learn that many such villages couldn't even have that small consolation. They moved deeper into the jungle and spent a hungry, sleepless night. The next day they moved up deeper into the hills into another village which was still standing. Some of the older people and the youngest ones had to be carried every now and then for long distances through the maze of inclining, dense jungle. Those who could whenever they could, glanced backwards, if only to capture for a moment the life they had just been forced to abandon, wishing with all their heart for it to be some nightmare they would wake up to any time soon. Alas, the weight on their legs as they navigated the climb, the rumbling in their hollow stomachs, their cold sweats running down their foreheads down their spines and their straining hearts hammering in their cages became the rude reminder that this was all real. A few months down the line, although now in safety with their people, their lives inside a relief camp isn't all rosy. In the early days when the scale and barbarity of the conflict left all in shock, the survivors of the pogrom were greeted with open arms and nary a dry eye. The whole community came together and resources were pulled together with urgency to set up relief camps all over the state to shelter the traumatized victims and give them a semblance of comfort. The residents too, still reeling under the trauma of the violence and the loss of all they had, were still partly unable to accept the reality of the situation they were caught in, living as if in a daze, holding on to a sliver of hope that the whole thing would be over soon and that they could somehow go back to their villages. But as the days passed the violence got worse. The flimsiest thread of hope they had that somehow they could return and live together again with their Métis neighbors and forget all this as if it were a misunderstanding was torn asunder by the scale of the ethnic cleansing, the barbarity of the Métis and the all-encompassing, virulent hatred birthing and sustaining the pogrom. There would, in all probability, be no going back. For now, the relief camp seems to be their home for the foreseeable future. Hence they put their mind and hands to it, setting up a small shed for a cooking area, building additional toilets and bathrooms using split bamboos in an area behind the church compound they had cleared of vegetation and finishing the walls of the hall they were sheltering in using the same split bamboo, as much out of necessity as also a distraction from the horror they had just survived, busier hands resulting in less idle minds dwelling on loss and pain. But as the weeks and months went on, the monotony of routine has caught up to many. Unable to return to their homes, and unable to find a viable means of employment, they have been living solely on the goodwill of others. Some of the youths have volunteered to go to the front lines, determined to keep what happened to them from happening to others. The men and women take turns in the community kitchen, but for the older folks like Pao, each day has become a battle with mundane existence. As he sits wallowing in the winter sunshine, his mind restless, his hands restive yet finding no gainful thing to do, he feels like his life has become meaningless. He's not a proud man, not after what happened, yet he questions the sustainability and end goal of this kind of existence, mere survival on handouts with no sign of any resolution in the near future. All his life he has worked with his hands to make a living and provide for his family. That contentment and peace with his place on earth has been robbed from him. Every now and then the church youths deliver used clothing and blankets collected from the village or supplied by some philanthropic organizations, and Pao is grateful that his family benefits from such charity, but deep inside, the feeling of helplessness to provide for his family haunts him. Even the soap they wash with comes from outside help. He couldn't brush his teeth if not for others. That feeling of utter dejection is hard to escape sometimes, he tells me. And now with the ongoing war effort extracting a heavy toll on the lives and economy of all concerned, with no support from the state they once called theirs, supplies in the camps have visibly suffered. There have been times when basic necessities like sanitary pads for the women and children's diapers are in acute short supply and people have had to do with reusing whatever they could, not to mention nutrition and dietary support for nursing women and their babies, some born in these camps. The few available mosquito nets are reserved for the oldest and youngest ones. The threat of malaria, dengue, and measles is rampant. A recent article from Newsreel Asia reports that 53 deaths have occurred in such camps due to lack of proper medical care and/or doctors. The old-aged and those with pre-existing medical conditions are especially vulnerable, not surprising when even healthy individuals have suffered due to lack of proper nutrition. Their 2 meals a day consists of rice and dal with little to no variations. The church, whenever it can, tries to provide meat but can only do so once a month and rarely in consecutive months. Whenever there are eggs supplied by the church or the philanthropic organizations, they celebrate like it's Christmas. Vegetables for mass consumption are hard to provide on a daily basis. Sundays they often get red tea. Milk tea is out of the question, as with the amount of milk powder required to make tea for 200 residents, there are other, more pressing needs that could be addressed, and people running such camps have had to weigh such options more often than you can imagine. There is a pressing humanitarian crisis hiding in plain sight in these camps. And now even dry wood for cooking seems much harder to find and procure. The general public assumes that residents of such camps may have easy lives, that they get assured meals twice a day, and that they don't have to work for it. But we forget that these people have paid the heaviest price for the smallest of our charities. Whatever you and I from the comfort of our homes think we have done and contributed to in this effort, it falls chasms short of the sacrifice these people have had to endure just to get here alive. They would rather have their homes, share a meager meal with their families under their own roof than merely exist on the goodwill of kind hearts, their future still uncertain, not being able to buy their children candies or eatables, the simplest things in a kid's life, when they ask for it. To keep them not just alive but well fed, well taken care of, and in the meantime work out a viable, sustainable solution for them is the least we can do to wipe their tears. I have seen a diminishing level of empathy from our own people as the months have gone by, and that, I feel, is crueler than the crimes and atrocities that have been committed upon them by the Métis. Opposing communities at war are expected to hate the other, but of people from within the community, such disinterest and detachment in their welfare and happiness is akin to sin. Make the time to visit these camps and it will force you to reevaluate where you stand. If you think you have done enough, think again. Imagine it is you and your family there with no place called home to go back to. Imagine living in these conditions. Take a moment to empathize once again. Think of Mr. Pao, of his aged wife, of his grandchildren whose innocence has been shattered, their education under threat. Their lives will never be the same. If you're reading this from the comfort of your home, or the safety of a faraway city, imagine spending one night or one day with these survivors and think of what little you can do to bring back joy and hope in their lives, if only for one day. That is all they need. One day from you, one day from me, another day from the person next to you, and so on to get them through this. Our collective effort has to be stronger than the sum of their sufferings. Otherwise we doom them to the fate decided upon them by our enemies. One day the war will be over and your conscience will have to answer for your part in all this. I hope we can say with all honesty that in some ways, little and great, you and I held their hands through all this.